So welcome back to the Expert Edge. Today is good, real good. I share with you, I think it's six, let's call it six strategies that will help you to break a income ceiling. Have you found yourself plateauing at a certain level? I know I have over the years. Maybe you're at 50,000 and you can't break above it. Maybe you're at 150. Maybe you're at 300. Maybe you're at 800. Maybe you're at 1.1. I don't know what you're at. But I know for me, over the years, I've had different seasons where I struggled to break through the income barrier. And I sat there for a number of years. On reflection, there were certain things that helped me to break through that revenue, that income barrier. Today's episode, I'm going to share with you exactly what they are. Let's get into it. Hey, it's Colin, and you are listening to the Expert Edge podcast. I was a professional speaker for over a decade, and now I focus on helping coaches, speakers, and course creators to speak and sell on virtual and live stages. The Expert Edge podcast is weekly content focused on helping you build your expert business. We cover marketing, storytelling, sales, communication skills, and so much more. Thanks for taking the time to tune in, and make sure you subscribe and follow us on all our social channels so you don't miss a thing. Let's listen to today's episode. So how do you break a revenue ceiling? I know for me, I've had many times in my expert business over the years. I've been running it now for 17 years. 17 years. That's kind of crazy. 17 years ago, I started my coaching business, which was really just a one-on-one coaching business. And it expanded into corporate training, keynote speaking. This was before digital products. And then digital products and kind of online presentations started becoming a big deal. And I started to do webinars and online presentations. Then I built my first CD pack. So I used to sell CDs, right? It's kind of like almost Tony Robbins style. The OG CD pack. Yeah, I used to have CDs, and then we transitioned into online courses, and then we haven't looked back from there, right? And then now obviously just doing online coaching and online group coaching, all that sort of different ways that you can deliver stuff. But if I look back over the years, there were definitely revenue bands that I found difficult to break. I would say at around that $300,000 point in revenue, I struggled to get above that. So I sat at about $300,000 for a number of years. It was probably like 2.5 years I sat there. And then I remember going to like 900,000. So it was around that $70,000 to $80,000 a month in revenue. And I found myself there for a number of years. And then we had a really big jump and went from like 900 to multi seven figures pretty quickly over about a 18-month period. But if I look back over the journey, and what I'm talking about there is like per year revenue for the whole business, right? For the whole business. And so I wanted to reflect on what were some things that I've done over those years that were kind of like trigger points that helped me to kick up and go to the next level in terms of revenue. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the mindset of stuff today. I want to actually share 6 strategies that I used to really get a revenue kick up. And I think you could use any of these strategies depending on what sits right for you. But obviously, I think you need to also understand that all of these strategies won't work unless you make a greater level of commitment, a greater level of decision to show up and be courageous. Right. And so all of these strategies, I would say the precursor for them is that they won't work unless you decide to be more courageous, unless you decide to stop making other people's opinions more important than the courage, the purpose that you feel is on your life. Right. And so I know for all of us, that is a journey. And I will say at each level you go to, you need to make a new decision, because at each level, there is a new level of exposure. There's a new level of risk. And that is why you as the business owner should get great rewards, because you carry the risk, right? You carry the risk of running the business. As I reflected back, there were definitely periods where, for a number of years, I sat at a revenue band. What I mean by a revenue band, it was like consistently doing within a certain $100,000 mark. Maybe it was 200, maybe it was 600, maybe it was 900. I kind of sat at that point. And here are some things that I did that made a big difference over the years that helped me to kick up, depending on what level I was at. So the first thing, and I will say this, that the prerequisite for this as well is that, I'm assuming that you're already doing the work of you've got a product, you've got an online course, you've got a coaching program, you've got some sort of mechanism that you deliver and you help people with, right? So I'm going to make an assumption that you already have that there. The first thing that I think you need to, and this will kind of go in order as well. I think one of the first things you should look at doing is increasing your audience size. So what I mean by increasing your audience size is basically getting more people's eyes on your stuff. Now, there are so many ways that you can do this. I think about ways that won't cost you any money, which is maybe it's an affiliate launch where you have affiliates on board for your products. Maybe it is partnerships that you build with other people. Maybe it is running a summit. Like those collaborative summits are fantastic, where you get together with about 6 of your other friends and you all share each other's lists. Essentially, you share each other's lists in a sense, where you basically promote to one person leads it, all the leads come in, and then depending on, what you brought in, you get some of the list share, right? And so those sort of summits are fantastic. I've seen those happen, thousands of times in the industry. I've been involved in them, and they're great for just growing your audience size. And obviously you can do it manually. So you go on social media and just post more consistently on social media. Really increasing your audience is getting more people in front of your conversion mechanism, whether that, I don't know if you're running a webinar or maybe you're doing sales calls, or maybe you're running virtual events or in-person events. I don't know what sort of mechanism you're using, but just getting more people seeing your stuff can make a huge difference. Alex Hormozy tells this great story of where he said he went to his mentor after doing, it was like a mailing campaign. And he said to his mentor, I did the mailing campaign and, it was okay. Like I got a few leads and I think I got 1 or 2 new clients from it. But, if I'm honest, it didn't work that well. And his mentor said, how many flyers did you put out? And I think Alex says something like, 400. I put 400 out. And the guy looks at him and he says, for me, it's not even a test unless it's 5,000 flyers. And he talks about how that was a real wake up call for him of going, wow, I'm thinking so small in terms of my audience size of what really needs to be a test. Now that brings up the second thing around building your audience. And this is a game changer for me. I coach my students all the time around this in our Sell From Stage Elite program, which is investing in paid traffic. Now, I would say at the start of your journey in investing in paid traffic, a lot of the time you'll probably break even or maybe lose some money. I know for me, the first couple of months of doing it, I pretty much broke even some months and I lost some money other months. But if I look at my business now, 70%, I would say, of our business revenue comes in from running paid ads. And we mainly use paid ads through Meta. So it's Facebook and Instagram, but you might use YouTube is another fantastic place for paid ads. Maybe Google. I haven't seen that many people in the expert industry do Google ads that well, but definitely Meta ads is a great place to start. And so just investing in paid ads to increase your audience size is a really good, and I think it's an inevitable exercise that if you shy away from doing that, you're going to find it very difficult to grow a 7-figure or a multi-6-figure expert business. You're going to find it really difficult. And I know for us, we did a big jump, and the jump was about $900,000 in revenue. And we did a big jump one year, several years ago, and it was purely from paid traffic. And so obviously it's not all profit, but if you do it right, a lot of it can be profit, which we're going to talk about soon. That's the first idea. Just this idea of get more eyeballs on your stuff. Not enough people are seeing your things. Sometimes I'll be doing coaching with people and I'll say, oh, great, how'd your webinar go? And they said, oh, it went okay. I got 4 sales. And I'll say, oh, great, how many people registered for the event? And they'll be be like, oh, we had like 30 people register, and then we had about 18 people show up, and then we had 4 people buy. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's like phenomenal. For me, when I'm thinking about hosting a webinar, I'm thinking minimum 3,000 to 4,000 people need to register, because in my mind, I'm thinking I want to generate at least $100,000, maybe $200,000 in an hour on a webinar in like a regular kind of monthly or bi-monthly webinar. And so when you think about your audience, I want you to start thinking bigger. And like I said, there's free ways of doing that, which is obviously through organic social media, partnerships, just increasing your audience through summits. But then paid traffic is a really big side of things. Now, I will say this, I don't really know how to set up a Facebook ad. I know Facebook ads in general. I used to do it actually many years ago when I first started. I bought a course in Facebook ad training, and that taught me the fundamentals of just how to set up an ad. And I think that's okay to learn. I do think it's important to learn just at least what goes on inside of there. And in fact, we had a bonus this time around in Sell From Stage Academy. It was a brand new one. We just added this to the academy this time around. And it was how to fill your webinars using meta ads. And my Facebook ads manager, who's phenomenal, he runs all of our ads full time. He shot a kind of like the basics of building a Facebook ad, the basics of building an Instagram and a Facebook ad, like literally how to do it. I do think that's important to understand, because when you talk with an ads manager, which is what I recommend you to get, someone who actually knows how to set up the ads properly. But when you talk to them, at least you know what they're referring to, because you don't want to be blind in the process. But for me, the most important part of running paid traffic is understanding the ad strategy. And so the ad strategy is knowing how to create a engaging, click-worthy video or image with a great headline and some copy. That for me is the most important thing that you need to learn. And that's what we teach in a lot of our programs. But I also still think it's important for you to understand a little bit of the technical side, right? Understand a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes. And so the first thing for you to break a revenue band, maybe your revenue at the moment is 50 grand. If you want to push it to $100,000, it could literally just be, you just need more eyeballs on what you do. Maybe you're running webinars and you're getting 30 or 50 people signing up. So if you have 100 people signing up, you're basically going to double what you're making. Does that make sense? And so getting more people onto your things is a great way of increasing your revenue. The second big thing is, and I will say what I just covered then, expanding your audience, there's kind of 2 nuances there. There is organic, expanding your audience, and then there's paid, expanding your audience. So that's kind of 2 in 1, but that is definitely huge. That made a big difference for me in growing my business. The second big bucket to look at is just to increase your conversion rates. And so maybe what I usually do with our launch processes when I'm coaching students as well is I'll sit down and we kind of do a red light, amber light, green light process where we look at each stage along the journey of, let's say it's a webinar, what would you give it in terms of a green, amber, or a red light? So in the sign up phase, is it a green light or is it a red light or is it amber? After they've signed up, in the show up phase, what would you give it? Like how many people show up, like percentage wise? And then when they're on there, the delivery, the conversion of the live experience. So the people who are on there live, what would you give it? Is it, above 10%? Is it below 10%? Is it above 20%? And so I'm looking at, light would I give it? And for me, if you can increase your conversion rate by maybe it's 3% or even 2%, if you're talking about big numbers into a presentation, a 1 or 2% conversion rate can be the difference between a $500,000 business and $1 million business, like literally a 1% conversion rate on webinars. And so learning how to increase your conversion rate, that's essentially what we teach in Sell From Stage Academy, right? It is how to tell stories right, how to frame resistance beliefs, how to construct your core premise, how to create an irresistible offer. Like it's all of those elements which make your conversion rates increase. And we see that happen all the time. I just had a message from a beautiful lady who just joined our academy. And she said, Colin, I just ran my first webinar. And she said that she made, let me just pull it up right now. And her name is Gal, G-A-L. Shout out to Gal. And she said to me, she said, Colin, I made $11,400 and I have only done one webinar so far. It was my first webinar I've ever done, and she was absolutely stoked. How cool is that? She just sent me a little testimonial with a link. Shout out to Gal. Well done. First webinar, $11,400. That for me, I mean, that's fantastic, right? And so she's obviously got some traffic into the webinar. And then now the next question is, how do we make this offer convert better? Right. And so that could be tweaking the offer or tweaking the actual presentation itself. So that is probably the second thing that I would want to look at. And you could even look at them combined, right? Because if you can get more people to your thing and you can convert at a higher level, you're going to drastically increase your income. You're going to go from, let's say you're doing 50,000, you're going to go to 200,000. Like you can do the jump from 50,000 to 200,000 very quickly. And that's just by increasing your traffic a little bit more and increasing that conversion rate. The third thing you can do is just increase your price. For me, over the years, there's certain programs that I have increased the price significantly and sometimes even doubling the price from one launch to the next launch. And it's so interesting. I've had times where I've literally doubled the price of a program and the conversion rate held the same. And on some occasions, it actually increased the conversion rate. More people joined at a higher price than what they did at the lower price. Obviously, there is some psychological positioning that happens there. If you are getting conversion rates consistently on your webinars or on your sales calls consistently, it's probably an indicator that you could lift your prices. Now, my philosophy is, there's a lot of people who teach, go high ticket, like push high ticket. As much as I do like that, like I like the idea of having high ticket, I've been in this industry long enough to know that if you don't deliver at a high ticket level, you get a pretty, I almost feel like swearing, crappy reputation. There are a lot of people out there who teach high ticket, they're known for high ticket. I'll just talk to people and I'll say, oh, you were in their program. How did it go? And maybe they paid, 50 grand or 100 grand to be in it. And they're like, oh man, it definitely wasn't worth the money. I don't know if you've had an experience like that. I know I have. Now, I will say, I'm never bitter, angry at anyone about that because I always get value. But I've definitely had experiences where I was like, that was not worth that level of investment. So I will say that you do have to consider what is the skill level you're bringing to the industry and the transformation you can have in someone's life. I think you should price it at a premium level, but I think you should gradually increase it as your skill set, as your notoriety, as your positioning and your credibility in the marketplace increases. Does that make sense? I think you should scale it up. For me, I occasionally do one-on-one coaching. Occasionally. Right now, to do one-on-one coaching with me, if I look back at when I first started, let me just do the math in terms of how much I charge for one-on-one coaching compared to what I used to charge. Okay, it is 55 times the amount per hour. 55 times. I'm not going to say the amount. It's pretty high, but I know that I can freaking deliver. I know without a shadow of a doubt that when I work with someone, and they have to be at a certain level for me to work with them at, right? Because I know that I can add 10x what I'm charging to their business in an hour in terms of the coaching. Now, usually it takes a couple of hours and we will work on some stuff. But like I said, I rarely do it. I might have 1 or 2 coaching sessions a month where I'm doing some work with someone. But I will say it's about 55 times what I used to charge when I first started 17 years ago. I genuinely feel like I add 55 times more value or way more than that because of the skill set that I have right now and the experience. But the reason why I can do that is because I've been working my butt off to get really good at what this, I've been doing this for 17 years, worked with like the biggest names in the world, Amy Porterfield, Jenna Kutcher, Anthony O'Neill, Kerry Green, Julie Solomon, like biggest names in the world. And having celebrity proof as well makes what you do more valuable because it creates an aura around what you do. Now, I say that because I want you to go after that sort of stuff. I want you to gradually, because I didn't start off there, by the way. I started off getting testimonials from, a small business owner. I think he was trying to sell model planes, right? That was the first testimonial I got from a guy. He was trying to get his little model plane business off the ground. Excuse the pun, right? Excuse the pun. Now that's great, right? That's where it started. But as it's grown, all of that combines together to create value. And so I guess what I'm saying here is as you increase your price, you have to make sure that you're also delivering that level of value. I've just seen too many times people sell high ticket stuff and just not deliver and just get a bad reputation. So just be cautious. That's just my opinion. Might be a limiting belief. Probably is. Someone will probably tell me it's a limiting belief. But I also know that I've got a pretty good reputation. And I also have very expensive things that people buy from me. And I've also got things that I think are priced very reasonably in terms of what our business does. In fact, I just got a video from one of our clients in our Self from Stage Elite program. And she said to me, I love this. She goes, Colin, I just wanted to send a little video to let you know, to say thank you for making a marketing and coaching program that doesn't suck. She's like, I've been in so many programs that kind of sucked, like in terms of what I paid for them. And she's like, I just wanted to say thank you for making something that doesn't suck. And for me, that was like one of the best testimonials I had. And so good. So, okay. Increase your price. So what does that look like? Maybe you do a 50% increase on your price. Maybe you've got a 997 program. If you've got a 997 program, bump it to 1997. I think you can do that quite easily. If you've got a 297 program, bump it to 497. If you're doing coaching for $3,000, bump it to $7,000. For me, like doing a jump like that, especially if you're converting and you've got demand happening, then doing something like that makes sense. Okay. So that is the next thing you can do to break a revenue ceiling. The next one is, this has been a huge one. I say it with a little bit of caution because if you do too many of this too many times, it's going to not work as well as you want. And that is adding a new product or program to your offer suite. So, for example, I always recommend my students to build, the first program you should build should be your flagship signature offer. And so that is usually a mid-tier ticket price program, anywhere between $500 to $3,000 usually. It's something you can easily sell on a webinar. It's something you can easily sell in the DMs. You can easily sell it on a sales call, all that sort of good stuff, right? And it's enough of a price that you can start working full-time in your coaching business fairly quickly if you start getting some velocity with that. So let's say you have your signature program. So you can add either a higher implementation program, so a higher ticket, higher value program, or you could add a lower ticket program. The journey I went on personally was I added a higher ticket program, and that instantly added a couple of $100,000 in revenue per year the first time I announced it, the first time I launched it. And so that definitely made a big jump in revenue. And it also, what I love about adding a higher ticket, like kind of continuity monthly program, is that it adds continuity. It adds a monthly reoccurring continuity to your business, and that creates a lot of stability in your business. And so if you've got your curriculum, your core curriculum built out, and you're selling that, let's say it's a $2,000 or a $1,000 program, then adding a implementation program, and you could launch that, let's say at the 3-month mark, rather than just giving people continued access, you could say at the 3-month mark, that's when the coaching finishes or the support finishes, and they can continue on on in a group program or in your group continuity or implementation program. Does that make sense? So that's a great little model. For me, I feel like I waited too long to launch this program for us. It was about 3 years. I'd been running our flagship program, Sell from Stage Academy, for about 3 years. We'd had close to 1,000 people in the program at the time. And I launched Sell from Stage Elite. Now, because I'd waited so long, it was like instantly we had a really solid group of people in the program, which was great. But I think I could have launched it earlier. I probably could have launched it a year earlier, I would say. But notice that I still spent a good 2 years refining that offer and making it consistent, making it deliver before I launched the higher program. Now, I also think you probably don't have to wait that long. As long as you've got, I would say, at least 30 to 40 people in that base level program, launching a next level is a really good idea. It's a really good idea. Now, the reason why I'm hesitant is because it can sometimes take away from getting momentum in one of the other products that's your main focus. And so the biggest challenge is balancing that momentum. And so for me, it probably over the last 5 years, I've added 2 programs. 5 years, we've added 2 programs. The first program we added is Sell from Stage Elite, which is our group coaching, our implementation program. And then the second program we added is Conversion Story Formula, which is a low ticket. At the moment, it's $47. We may increase it actually because I think that the value is easily there. We've had about 8,500 people come through that in the last 18 months. It's been around. Here's the secret. That 8,500 people that came through at that low ticket price, the price point pays for the ads itself. And so what that means is I get the combination, the beautiful combination of increased traffic, which was the first thing to do a revenue jump. So I get the beautiful combination of increased traffic, but I also don't have to pay for it because the program at the lower ticket pays for itself. Does that make sense? So that's like a beautiful combination. But I will say that doing that once again too early can be just too much going on in your world. That's why I always recommend having your signature offer, getting that thing dialed, getting some momentum in it, using partners, using affiliates, just increasing some momentum there, doing a little bit of paid traffic and growing with that. And then you can look at, hey, do I need to increase my conversion rate? Do I need to increase my prices? And then eventually, once you've got enough people in that program, you can go, okay, I can either, whatever you feel, right? There's no right or wrong. You could add a lower ticket or you could add a higher ticket program above it as a continuity, right? Depending on what you want to focus on. And the final thing to break an income barrier is to just increase the velocity and consistency that you're doing something that is already working. It's so funny. So often we as entrepreneurs want to find the new thing. We're like, what's the new thing? Like, what is the new thing that I could find that would be exciting for me? But the problem is that most successful businesses are boring businesses. And if you're always trying to find the new thing, what's going to happen is you're going to get distracted. And so rather than trying to find the new thing, take what's working and do that more, right? So maybe you are running a virtual event, a virtual workshop maybe, that converts into your programs every quarter. If you increase the velocity of that and did it every month, you would most definitely make more sales. That could probably double the amount you're making over the year by just doing double the amount of conversion events, right? And then if you combine it, obviously, with increased audience size and learning how to grow that because you're actually making more money and you can invest in ads, everything kind of scales up. And so these are some of the levers that for me over the years have made a big difference. First one, expanding your audience. Just get more eyeballs on your stuff. And you can do that through organic or through paid. The second one, increase your conversion rate. Look at, is my offer really irresistible? Like, ask your audience, what do they need to have in there to make it irresistible? Is your content, your presentation really actually aligning with the offer properly? The next one, increase your price. Pretty simple one. You can literally just increase the price of something. But like I said, if you are going to launch a high ticket thing, just make sure you've got the goods to be able to do it, to be able to deliver on that thing. I'm sure you do, and make sure you do, right? And do it gradually, I think, personally. That's what I find. It helps you acclimatize. Add a new product, like literally just throw a new product in there. That can make a big difference. Maybe it's a higher ticket program or a lower ticket program, and then just do what's already working more, right? Just take what's already working and do it more. These are some ways that you can break an income ceiling. I hope and I trust this has been valuable. Thank you for being a part of the Expert Edge. If you haven't done our entry-level program, Conversion Story Formula, definitely go and check that out. Like I said, we've had 8,500 or so people come through over the last 18 months, and the feedback we get is just phenomenal. You can check that out at conversionstoryformula.com. Once again, thank you for being a part of the Expert Edge. We'll see you around next week. Bye for now.